who are we to save another being? Who are we to interfere with someone's soul contract? Can we really save anyone or anything? Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Orphic. My name is Alyssa. I'm an astrophysicist. I have my PhD, and I'm interested in understanding how the entire universe works from a conscious, energetic perspective, essentially trying to understand the spirituality of astrophysics and of the universe, and trying to figure out, like what are the energetic and conscious dynamics that are at play when all these galaxies are interacting and these stars are forming and all this stuff. And there's an extra level that's deeper under what we're seeing. And that's what I want to know. And that's what I'm most interested in. So follow me on Instagram at interdimensional.astrophysics for some more info, and just follow along with my ideas. I have a lot of ideas lately. A lot of ideas. Hi.
Hey, I'm Mikayla with Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. I'm an empathic medium and do energy medicine and shadow alchemy. And I'm here to be part of the ripple effect of healing across the planet. So here to support and guide souls as we do that inner work on ourselves, do that deep diving shadow work, and really connect to our inner wisdom and our inner truth, and then learn to move through the world from this place.
Yeah, love it. So we like to start every episode by grounding in and just doing some deep breathing so that we can all sort of become more in the present moment. So Mikayla will kick us off with that.
Yeah. So let's just take a moment and close your eyes if you're able to, and place your feet flat on the floor. To even place a hand on our heart, and we're going to take a few deep cleansing breaths here. So when you're ready, take a deep breath in, filling your lungs all the way to the top to full. Pausing here. And opening your mouth to let it release. Letting go of anything negative, anything that might be feeling heavy on you, and releasing it with the breath. Taking another deep, full breath in. Filling your lungs all the way to the top. Pausing here. And when you're ready, let it go. Letting go of anything and everything that's not serving you. Releasing it with the breath. One more here. Filling your lungs all the way to the top. Pausing. Taking a moment to feel into your body. Feel into your heart beating. Feel into the blood running through your veins. And when you're ready, let it go. Release anything and everything that is ready to go. Feeling yourself grounding into the earth. And when you're ready, just slowly and gently bring yourself back into the space.
Great. Okay, so this episode, is a continuation of last week's, which is you talking about your training stuff at Eagle's Eye Ranch. And there was just definitely a lot of like interesting tangential conversations that we had in these episodes. So also check out last week's if you haven't listened to that yet, the part 1 of Journey into the Heart. And hope you enjoy this episode.
And because this is, even though it is a training, there's so much energy healing that's going on between all of us. And I'd say even more so for me in the next one, because the next one gets a little bit more, I don't want to say intense, but like we're going deeper into the energetics and the energy healing.
Yeah.
But you're still holding this container of healing and shifting And it's so interesting because there was one lady there that was gifted the experience. And from my perception, it didn't really seem like she knew what she was getting herself into. So
that energy is interesting. It's like, this is kind of something that you should probably by yourself, or just like, yeah. I mean, obviously, I guess she was like into it, but because of how much of a contractual investment and energy exchange and just immersive thing this is probably some kind of experience that you would want to just like have full sovereignty over your decision to enter a container like that. So I could see the energy of being gifted it like a little bit different. But
yeah.
Oh yeah, and I mean, yeah, Lucia's intense and it's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. Yeah, and there's a lot of layers to that too, because I think the person who gifted it won it somewhere. It was maybe it was a sponsorship that Lucia did or something. She won it, I believe, is how it went.
I see,
and then she gifted it to this person and was like, I think you really need this or could use this. And I think Lucia had a conversation kind of saying, I think the person who won it should use it. You should use it. And so she was speaking to the resistance that person had. And why this all came up, though, is because the lady who did get gifted it and came, I mean, kudos to her for like really stepping outside of her comfort zone. And she was very open about that too. And I really appreciated that, because even in the beginning, she would kind of say, I don't know about any of this. She's like, you guys are having these conversations about things I've never even heard of before. And she's like, I'm not as woo-woo as you guys or as in tune as you guys. And she's like, and this is pretty wild for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Sounds like she didn't know what she was getting herself into.
No, but I really appreciated her openness and honesty to talk about that.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's good. Like, cause it could have, you could have that situation could go sour, but it sounds like she was still very open, or just was more, you used it from like, navigated that from a curiosity perspective, as opposed to like, oh, I'm not in my element, like maybe I should leave, or like, I don't know.
Yeah. So a lot of shifts like that happen too, where people would have these moments too, where people would burst into tears or they would be crying, because we are going through these really profound shifts all in this container too. At the same time, and having these realizations. So those moments definitely were not uncommon, and would happen more and more. And there was a lot of, energy healing that was going on as we were doing these trainings and learning. Like, I know there's this one lady or girl or whatever, and she was standing up, and Lucia, and it's so crazy how in tune Lucia is to what's going on in the energy too. And she's like, because Lyra walked up to her, the black and white horse, and she said, okay, put out your arm and move it back on her, move it back on her further. And then she's like, I'm trying to open you up to her heart space. So she was trying to position the girl to have her heart right next to Lyra's. And it was insane watching it. I think this was on the last day, but I don't remember. Because once she got herself in position to her heart, because before that she's like, okay, and she's kind of moving her hand. As soon as their hearts locked, she was like, ah! Like she just like let out this like, ah! And like she just went into like a full like whatever healing Leah, oh my god, that's not what I meant to say. Lyra, the healing that Lyra was doing for her. And then Lucia came up behind her and she asked another shaman that was there to come behind her and catch her, and they completely let her down on the ground and did the energy healing and let her process. But she had this huge release with the horse where she just like let it go. She burst into tears, and they did this whole healing. And this is happening right in the middle of us doing this training and these sessions on each other.
Yeah, it's just a full blown it's just anything, you're in a safe space. You're just in this container where a lot of intense things are happening. That's super cool about the whole like alignment thing. And it was just, she had to that's awesome.
It's super cool. And Lucia also works from a place of priority. So whatever is the energetic priority at the time, that is where our attention goes or the focus goes. So she either got an intuitive hit or was in communication with Lyra or knew that the priority had shifted to this girl's healing at that point in time. And sometimes that would happen where even the horses came through and they needed something. They needed an energy healing. And that was the priority before we moved on to the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Even just that concept of like working from priority, it's we could probably apply that to most things in our life be more conscious of that. And I think a lot of people could use a bit of a perspective switch around that. And well, what's interesting about that whole priority thing is that how do you know what's priority? You have to tune in. It's an intuition thing. And that's how, just applying that to your day, and that's how we get scattered, because we forget to tune into, we forget to drop down to our heart, we forget to tune back into our heart, because our body and our heart already know what's a priority. And the information, it's like we act like it's difficult to know what the priority is when we do know what the priority is, and we just maybe should be working from that space. Cool.
Well, I mean, I think working with priority is also being in your heart space.
Yeah.
Because you move from, because that's, even with Lucia as an example, like she's constantly working with the energetic priority, and it's also with ease. She's flowing from ease to the priority,
yes.
And also being connected to your heart space and having that inner knowing of what that is. Like, I also think that is part of too what it means to live in your heart space and be living from the heart, I believe, or that's how I feel.
Yeah. No, totally. It's and it's also because that's where the energy is flowing. It flows, our energy is flowing with our experience with our outward reality through our hearts. So yeah.
It's a great reminder of that too, because I would like to start working with priority and more feeling into that in my heart space every day too. And what is the priority today or right now or whatever?
Mm-hmm. And one of the practices that I remember you have been talking about this for a while, we maybe mentioned on the podcast once, was about making a list, right? Like making a list of the things that you are going to be doing or the things that you want to focus on, but in order of priority, or in order of in order of priority. I don't think I ever did that, but I remember you talking about it a bunch.
Yeah, I think
that's cool
that's good, and I would like to do that again. But I think also allowing the priorities to shift. So maybe making your list and going into your heart space and feeling into what is the priority,
yes.
And then daily going back there and asking if anything's changed.
Yeah. Yep. That's good.
Because there's so many things that could be a priority. And so, and that's part of learning to be in your heart space, is practicing that listening too, instead of saying, oh, I should do the laundry, I should do this, and really listening. Because maybe you think today, realistically, the priority is cleaning the house, but maybe when you listen to yourself, your body's saying, no, your priority is to rest, and your priority right now is to make yourself a smoothie with this supplement in it, or your priority is to go for a walk out in nature. And that's part of not living in your heart space, is when we ignore that or we don't listen. I'm talking to myself.
Yep.
But it's practice.
Yes. Oh, totally. It's a practice, because none of this stuff can be turned on instantly and then just maintained at all times. It's a practice. And also, part of life is getting out of alignment. I'm using now air quotes, out of alignment, because what do these things actually mean? What are you aligned with? It can be also relative, but I don't know. I guess I just had remembered a bit of an intro to a Kundalini class that I had taken one day, where I was feeling specifically out of alignment, and I remember I just felt so much better. Just that simple thing of like, there's no, it's like living life is to get thrown back out of alignment, but it's just obviously about having the tools to get back in or whatever. So, there never has to be any judgment about being like, oh, I got out, because we're in a third density. So it's part of the equation is getting out and getting back in. But you don't even need to think of it in terms of those, like, you don't even need to think of one as good or bad.
No, definitely not. No judgment toward that. That's just the human experience. And I think that's why we do this healing, and it's why we do this work, if it's shadow alchemy or energy medicine or just our own inner healing or learning to connect with our inner wisdom. What did you just say?
I was just saying this stuff about getting in and out of alignment, and just
that is to build the practice and our tools to bring us back
yes,
to that that place.
Yeah, and just the emphasis on how much there really needs to be no judgment about when you get out of it. Like, there really needs to be zero judgment about that, because that's just what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So let's see, what else happened in these magical first 3 days, unless you want to talk about the other 5 days.
No, not yet. We're not ready for that.
For the rest. Okay, no, I'm not ready.
I'm thinking ready. So we also had some really beautiful shamans and energy workers, I would say shamans and medicine people that were with us holding space in these few days, which was really cool. One of them was the lady that did the Sananga with me.
Oh, cool.
And we did a drum ceremony to open up the container, to open up the 3 days. And that was really beautiful, and being a part of that, as well as just that, like, them holding the energy and watching them shift and support our shifts, and also being able to connect with them and ask them questions was really, really cool for me.
What do you feel like the significance of the vibration of drums is? Because, I never because of course, when I was just editing the episode about you talking about the Sananga, and you said that you guys started with like a drumming ceremony. And then it also just reminded me of there's someone in my psychic light class, Jillian, who is going to sort of get into music and like creating music and stuff on YouTube, and she wants to make like these like soothing sort of drumming videos. And I've never really I've just never really gravitated towards anything that has to do with drums, or I get overwhelmed by like loud drums. So it just had me thinking about like the vibration, like the healing vibration of drums. Like, do you have any other like thoughts on how, like, because I just feel like I never really like worked with it, and it seems like you've used it a lot in the healing. Like, I've only done other sorts of sound healing, but drums, I imagine, would have a very specific sound frequency and like staccato type of healing. I don't know, do you have
I think you kind of just said it when you said you literally just said the drum has a specific frequency. So bingo, I think that's it. I think, as well as the drum can be very clearing, like the boom, 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 boom. Yeah. It's also very rhythmic, and it can, not always, but in some cases, if you do like a heartbeat, like just that boom, 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 boom,
yeah,
boom, boom, boom,
like
boom,
the
boom, boom.
beat. Okay.
So I think it's a tool that can be used for clearing or in ceremony, because it
reset your rhythm.
Yeah, because it has the specific vibration. So it's also your intent for it, but as well as some of these drums are like indigenous made, or so what is the drum made of too, even with the frequency, and how was it made, and who was it made by, and what's the frequency of how it was made, and then from there the frequency that is emitted when you do pound on the drum and use it.
Yeah, I don't know, it's just like we were talking about, I was like, I never think about like the significance of drums in sound energy healing and everything, but I guess it would be more so of like a clearing, because I've never like listened to, I just have never really used it in my aura. I don't think. But yeah, I guess like definitely some rhythmic stuff to kind of
very rhythmic,
align yourself to a rhythm.
The alignment,
because yeah,
I would also say the drum can really get you into a trance. Like I would say the frequency of it
is
very supportive of also going to that place of meditation or that innerness. Because there's a lot of different ways, but I mean, I don't have my own drum, but I would love to call one in. I do really love the drums. And from my experience, a guided journey that I've done with the drums or healing that I've done with the drum has been really powerful, especially in person.
What's coming to me now is, I'm just thinking also about like my aversion to it, because I feel like I have such an aversion to like harsh sounds, even though I know that obviously you can have like a soft like doo 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 doo. But what's coming to me now is because of the harsher vibration, it cuts energy way different, as opposed to just like a tuning fork or just like a beautiful 432 hertz sound frequency. More so would gradually align the energy of your body to that frequency, and the drum vibration and frequency would establish a rhythm and cuts things. So you said it was good at clearing, right?
I think you would feel different if you heard it in person too, because another thing I was thinking of, more so than the sound, is the actual vibration. The vibration that you can feel, though, because you can feel the boom boom.
Yes,
boom,
you can.
Boom,
Yeah,
boom,
it physically vibrates your body and your whole cells. So it's literally making your cells like dance. So yeah. I feel like I need to think about this more. I feel like there's more that wants to come through. We'll report back next time. I don't know. It just has me on a whole thought loop.
Yeah, and it would be really interesting to know a bigger why maybe like the indigenous use drums and stuff like that, because I don't know the answer to that. I think it would be something around like what we talked about the vibration and the frequency and the clearing, but like very specifically, I don't know. But they've been using those for like thousands, if not more, years in ceremony.
I feel like too, because of the intense vibration of it, I feel like drums get straight to the heart too, because you literally feel the thump. I was going to say that. So it's a direct straight to the heart. Well, that wasn't the greatest like visual. It was more like a stabbing, but yeah, it's something that it cuts through. I just feel like I comparing it to a different sound, it's like it cuts through, as opposed to other sounds gently bring you in the flow. It's a flow versus a cut.
Yeah, and maybe it helped clear with other thoughts too. Like I feel like when I was in a journey with the drum, like I was more where I wanted to be, if that makes sense. Like I feel like it really supported bringing you to that place.
Oh,
yeah, the present. Yes,
the present moment. Oh, yeah. I can see that. I can see drums bringing you to the present moment very easily.
I would love to ask a professional drum person, not like, but like.
Well, yeah. Right, because David, my brother, plays the drums, but like the regular ones that are like, I hate loud noises. So that's why it's like,
I hate that too.
Anytime he's in the house and plays the drums, I like need to go to like a different zip code, because you can fucking hear it from everywhere. It's like vibrates the whole house, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sound sensitive.
I'm like that too, just like that overstimulation, like.
Yeah, it's the overstimulation. So I just feel like I have an aversion to it, and I just have never experienced it in some kind of ceremony or meditation or anything like that. But yeah, no, it would be. Now I actually kind of want to have a whole conversation with. I feel like we gotta have a whole conversation with my friend Jillian, who's in my psychic light class, about has this affinity to music, and using it for sound healing and especially drums. And she wants to make YouTube videos of like soothing drum beats and everything.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool.
I'll talk to her about it.
So we began the ceremony and we closed the ceremony, or we began the weekend and closed the weekend with a drum ceremony. So the shamans and Lucia led that. We did a clearing of all of us with sage, and Lucia has this very beautiful sacred golden eagle feather, and she used that to do the sage clearing with us, which is very powerful.
Eagle feathers are very powerful. I did a Kundalini like a special workshop with it that was all around the eagle feather, and we all got to touch the eagle feather. And because eagles are the animal that fly the highest in the sky, so they're the closest to the sun. I don't know if you were gonna like just say something like the exact same thing, but so to touch an eagle feather, did you get to touch it?
No, she's very intentional with who.
Yeah, I bet it was when we touched it, like all around, it was like in a jar, and it was like you have to be very careful, and it was like literally to touch an eagle feather is like an honor, to be that close to this animal that's close to the sun.
And you also never lay it on the ground. You always have it like standing up. So she has a stand on her desk where it's standing up, but no, not everyone gets to touch it. And she says like if you touch it, it will like change your life. So it's funny because now I'm getting this image of like on Aladdin where there's like that red ruby and like the monkey's like ooh, because I'm it makes it really, you're like I want to touch it. I want to touch it.
Yes,
but I mean we were it was an honor to even be saged with it. And then she has let other people use it, because there was another shaman medicine woman who used it to actually go around and clear us with it. But even to see, and this was also, it was a golden eagle feather, and it was big. Like it was like big. Maybe.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It's big.
That is big. Yeah. That's way.
And then we did the drum ceremony. The shamans led it, and this was really cool for me because I haven't experienced a lot of things like this, even though I've been calling it into my field because I would like to. A lot of it did feel indigenous too, in what was said, and like the languaging and just the maybe the intent, but I don't know for sure. But we did we all faced south, west, north, and east. So we did all of the different directions. And then we connected with Mother Gaia. So we're like honoring and calling in all the directions and the sentient beings from these directions that will come and support us. And then Creator above us. And then we did that with the drum and just like called in this really beautiful energy and container of support and love and activation and healing for the weekend. So that was pretty cool. And then we did that to close it out as well. Let me think. And there's also, I talked about this in some of the other episodes about just the sessions that we did, but there is a girl there too who can speak light language, or the light language from the star system that she's from. And it was so wild because she just like gets downloads where she just like we were sitting in class one day and so part of this experience too is we would have classroom time where we would go through PowerPoints with Lucia, and a lot of it was storytelling. Like she would have different points of stories of her experiences to tell us, and with the teachings and stuff. And then we would also do more like hands-on things where we would go out into the paddock with the horses and we would do the actual guided journeys, but then we had the classroom time too. But I remember one time sitting in the classroom, and the girl who can do light language, like she just like her hands just like start going like this, and it's like she's getting like a signal. It's like she's tuning, and Lucia's like, yeah, okay, yeah, go for it. And she just like boom, just like she stands up in front of everyone and just like I mean, I don't want to actually do it, but
yeah. Was that the same person that Was that okay? That was the same person that was at the observer session that would just go up behind people and just start doing like a bunch of light language and hand motions.
So that was really cool
Awesome.
too. And it's so interesting because like the type of person she is, I know in that moment too, she's like, I don't want to interrupt class, but it's like you can tell she's like shaking. It's like she can't even. And I remember her saying, she was asking them, she's like I don't know if now's the time, and they're like, no, now, like now, do it now. Now is important. So she asked permission from Lucia too, which is also a very important point. And Lucia was like, yes, because she knows what she can do. And then she just like went for it. It's wild watching that. And then I think,
does she have an Instagram, or does she do that on Instagram or anything? And if not, why?
She doesn't.
She has to be sharing these transmissions.
So this was the girl. She's also been living on Lucia's property for a while. So that's why I seen her in some of those observer sessions. I don't know if she specifically does the light language on Instagram, but she's a dancer. And so she just has gotten now in the town of Armstrong, right outside where Lucia lives outside of this town. She's got her own studio now, which has been kind of a new development, and she teaches dance. So I would really like to go to one of her classes one of these days. But I think I've talked to her before, and I think at some point she would like to do more of a program. We just got a big thunder. A program of teaching dance, but also has these spiritual elements in it, healing in it, and the light language.
Gotcha.
But it's awesome. So wild hearing it in person, like hearing the light language come through.
Right. And especially when it just comes through so like naturally like that, like it's happening. And it's
that.
Yeah. Wow.
And
okay.
It's like, as she's saying it, like sometimes other people who know the light language can understand. And I feel like I didn't know exactly, but I felt it in my heart. I felt it on an emotional level, and it actually made me tear up.
Oh yeah, totally. Like with light language, I feel like we should explain light language. I forgot that we didn't do that. Light language, yeah, I mean, I don't know, light language is, it can sound like anything. It's just a verbal translation of some language or information from some higher dimension or from some other realm. And I think,
and a realm of
a
light,
lot of people,
maybe some people to mention.
Yeah. Right. From a realm of light. And so it's a translation from some etheric like light code, or like it's literally translating like a wisp of light into words. And a lot of people that do light language transmissions or healings online or everything, obviously our conscious brain is not going to understand it. It kind of just sounds like gibberish, or there's a lot of different versions of that. Obviously I haven't heard all of the light language. Anything that I've heard sounds like gibberish, or it sounds like it sounds like beautiful gibberish. It sounds like, some other language. I don't know. But the soul understands. Usually there is an activation that will happen that will unlock your DNA. It will activate you. Your soul will understand it. You might actually get the meaning of it without knowing what it's actually saying. And at the same time, so that another version of what that looks like is emotional release. So you heard some light language and you hear this emotional and you feel this emotional release because it stirred up something inside of you that was divinely timed at that time to be brought through you, or to activate something with you, or to release something within you.
And it's activating and it's healing. And she would kind of go, like, I think she'd have a message for all of us. She said that it was like a collective message, and she started like doing it, but then she would even go up to certain people and start like, 'cause she uses her hands in the energy field as she does it, where she's clearing things and she's saying things and she's activating things. And at least from my perception. And it was wild. And it's wild too to be in that moment. We're all just taking that in. And then I'm thinking of the girl who on the first day is like, I don't know why I'm here, and I don't know about anything about this. And to see something like that, like what that experience would be like.
Yep. That must have been quite the experience for that girl.
I would say so. I never did ask her what she thought specifically, but
like, even I've never been, it's like what you were saying when you said how all these people were soul family. Like, you've probably never been around I don't know if you've been to any spiritual retreats or anything, but like, have you ever been around a group of people that are this like-minded to you in the physical? Like, because I've never been to a spiritual retreat or anything. So
Absolutely not. Like, not even close.
So very new. Not even close. Yeah. Right. I'm the same. And so like, I haven't even seen most of these things in person either. So it's still, it's so new. We talk about this a lot too, though, just, in getting soul family into physical reality, and it's just slowly but surely it's happening, but it's still very new. It is, for
and
us.
Calling that in and navigating kind of what that looks like for ourselves and aligning us to it. And that's why part of this weekend was so magical in those ways too, because was of the connections and the conversations that we're having. Like, for me, lately, I've been having this recurring feeling that I've just been really craving connection with people, but where I can talk about these things, because I don't feel like I can talk about this stuff in my regular life, which is why I talk about it with you, and we send so many voice memos, and we have a podcast. And I talk about it with my partner to a certain extent, but I haven't had a space like I did there at the ranch where I'm talking to everyone. We're having these collective conversations, and we're bouncing ideas off each other, and we're like also having aha moments. Like, people are asking questions and someone's talking about their perception of something. They're like, oh wow, like I didn't think about it like that. And they're having like a download, and then someone else kind of like is the puzzle piece to someone else's question. Like, I don't even know how to explain it in human words, because it's beyond powerful.
Yeah. Yep. It's so wild to have that whole experience.
And so for me, it was very hard to leave that. And this is also people of all different ages. There's young people there. There's mothers there. There's people that are older, like over 50. Yeah. Like there's a whole plethora of people, but you're just connecting with everyone, and just like the humanness of them, and the star seed inside of them, and holding space for them, and just having these really high vibrational conversations.
So was that that ceremony that you're talking about? That was the closing ceremony? But you said you did an opening and closing drum with the ceremony, drum, right? Nice.
Let me think. Another thing, we talked a lot about belief systems, obviously.
It's a big one, because that's stored in the root chakra for the most part, as far as my understanding of it, and that sets the foundation for your entire life, your beliefs.
Because people don't it's a big realize this, and I've had these conversations with Bryce and stuff too, but just people don't realize how, like, those I mean, we've talked a lot about this too, but these subconscious belief systems that reflect your reality, like, yeah, it's crazy.
It's the trickiest thing to reprogram too. It's tricky. It's tricky because it controls your entire reality, because your beliefs are stored in your root chakra, and a huge part of that is your fight or flight mode and your survival. And that's why it's so, I'm getting chills. That's why it's so hard to tame and to control and to reprogram, because it feels so life or death, because that's your survival instinct. And so it feels like the times that you're most confronted with an opportunity to change your belief systems and to change to move through changes in your root chakra is when you're confronted with what feels like life or death. So how are you going to all of a sudden implement some new belief system when you feel like you are at risk of your safety?
Yeah.
So what else did you guys talk about with the belief systems? Like, what do you feel like you got from that?
Yeah, I'm just feeling into that for a moment, because we were constantly talking about belief systems, and just like, I don't know, I guess maybe different beliefs around different things, even if it was like the healings and the teachings that we were doing, and just like how the belief system will become the truth, and how that like sits in our body. We had a lot of conversations about it. I'm not thinking of anything specific right now, but just a lot of in-depth conversation about how our beliefs just structure everything around us. And then so I think also going into those beliefs and having the openness to be aware of them, but then also to deconstruct them or let something else be there, to have that awareness of the transformation again that could occur with those different beliefs that we have.
Yeah.
And then languaging. I talked about languaging a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about that because there was a lot of words that would come up where Lucia specifically would be like, I don't like that word, or like changing the word. And so I feel like I learned a lot about languaging, like even if it was the intention piece to intent, but a lot of other things and how we're programming with our languaging, and languaging's built like that. And there's a lot of things, even within like kind of a tangent, but I'm not really getting into it, but even within our legal system, the way that things are like languaged and stuff like that to like program in these different things is really, really interesting. But also just being aware of our languaging too, and how powerful our words are. Because a lot of the time people, we don't realize, like having regular conversations with people, a lot of people will say like stuff that they don't mean, or they'll just like say things kind of willy-nilly, not thinking that there's really a vibration that's attached to it, but there is, and it's important.
It's so important. Like just a silly example is like I'm always like on my mom's case, or for like we'll walk into the kitchen or something, or if the kitchen needs to be cleaned, she'll be like, we got a lot of work to do in here. And I'm like, maybe, but like, do we have to like say it like that? To when you say a sentence like that, we got a lot of work to do in here, she fucking says it like that too. I just envision a 3,000 ton weight cloud has just been placed on your aura, and now you have a huge weight on you. And meanwhile, it's just a kitchen that we just need to fucking wipe the counters. Like, can we just, you know, like, why do we need to? This is also just me venting. Thanks. Like, yeah, the words, and it's we're just so accustomed to using these things, and it creates our experience. So,
yes. I mean, yeah, and that's kind of with like the languaging and the belief system does kind of go hand in hand, because like how many times do you hear somebody in conversation or people just say, I can't afford this, I'm broke, cancel clear, because I'm none of those things. But people say that, and it's like, and I'm just like, well, you're always gonna be, because you keep saying it. Like, you're creating your reality with your words, with your language, and your belief system. So how do you step outside of that if that, like,
we all have like those few people in our lives. I feel like a lot of it is probably like family that triggers us. Was like anyone that is aware of this and tries to be aware of this. It's like everyone has those few people in your life that just constantly use the negative languaging and constantly negative reinforcement of I'm this and I'm that, and it's so frustrating because you can't change them, and you can't, you know, what are you gonna, like, it's frustrating. So just, I don't know, I'm just having a moment. I feel you, I see you. It's frustrating when you wish you could help people with their languaging, but and those things, but sometimes it's so wrapped around their brain and in their reality that I don't know. But we can be aware of it, and then we can affect them by being the ripple. There we go. It turns it into a positive.
We can affect them by being the ripple. And I mean, that's something big that Lucia talks about now, is us as star seeds, light workers, indigo kids, whatever you want to call it, healers, change makers. We're not to save anyone anymore. We're not to rescue anyone anymore. Yep. And the way that we be change makers and healers is by healing ourselves first. But now people have to be in search of their own healing, and they have to come to you. We are no longer moving into the new paradigm in a place to rescue and save. It's not working like that anymore. We are dishonoring ourselves by rescuing and saving. You have to seek that out yourself, or else it does not work.
And, you know, you'd be surprised that sometimes people that you wouldn't expect they do get to a point where they seek your advice or they ask a question, and it happens. And I remember, and I've told a few stories on this podcast about times that's happened to me. And, now that I feel like I've been walking this path and living differently for a few years now, the ripple is starting to take place in everything. And it definitely can trickle like that. And you'll be surprised at when you start living just your truth and just living your own way and working on yourself, that it's definitely possible. People come around and they see it, and there's so much more subconsciously, there's so much more happening in other people's brains by being around your energy that you don't know. And it's I guess we could call it like seed planting, but it's seed planting is just a simplifying way to like put it maybe. But there's so much happening because that person is so unconscious of. Because especially if we're dealing, I'm just now talking about a scenario where, you're existing and you're trying to live your most aligned life around people that are living in a completely different reality than you. And there is a lot happening from your energy. Now this is full circle into the whole ripple effect thing. You are affecting the people around you, especially if they're not super conscious. A lot of the way you're affecting them is extremely subconscious, and energetic. These things can grow and evolve, and energetic. And yes, back to the thing of people asking you. It just, I guess just saying, I'm starting to see it now in my reality. I'm starting to see it. Sometimes it takes a while, but I've been surprised by people that ask me questions, or by people that, people are listening. Like, people are watching you. People are taking in your energy, and it's doing wonders for them, whether or not they can consciously admit to that. And so, just keep on keeping on.
Yeah. I was going to say something to that. Well, also, I think something with, because, and a lot of us people who are starseeds, like, we came to Earth to help. So a lot of us have that like rescuer archetype within us.
Yeah.
And that wanting to save, which there's a lot of layers to that. But, and also another big thing that we talked about is permission, and asking for permissions, and how incredibly important that is. Because even if you see an animal maybe that's injured, or a person, what's stopping you from going in and just doing an energy healing on them? You need to ask for permission. You cannot just do things on other sentient beings. You need to ask for permission, and it's very important.
Yeah. And that's totally something that humans kind of bypass, especially when it comes to animals, because of the lack of verbal communication. It's totally something. It's like you said, there's a lot of layers to that. The savior complex, the thinking that you need to save others or save animals. It's huge, and there's a huge aspect of human consciousness that loves to just bypass, cut right through that. And so when it comes to asking permission, like, was there a certain way that Lucia was talking about it, in terms of like, was there a certain way that, like, energetic permission, or I don't know, was there anything else that she was saying about that, the whole thing of permission?
Well, the permissions thing came up in a really interesting way while we were there, because there's a few different things. I mean, energetically, or in your heart space, you can ask a sentient being for the permission. And along with that goes too, is like, because if you are just going to save something or do an energy healing, like, and you don't ask for permission, how do you know that that's not supposed to be part of that being's experience for the greater good?
Yes.
How do you know that? Because there is situations where that's the case, right?
This was related to the story. I had told you that Jackie, my sister, told me a story passed down from Lucia about a time that she tried to go save the dolphins, and maybe she told you this in the one of the sessions, about when she learned this, because this is exactly speaking to the teaching that you're talking about. She went and tried to save the dolphins, and there were some dolphins that kept swimming to this cove or something. Maybe this is in Egypt, I don't know. And like they would always be killed there, and she went there and she was like, oh, I have to go save the dolphins. And she went there and she talked to the dolphins, and they were like, we know what we're doing. Like, we don't need to be saved. Like, we know what we're doing. We know that when we come to this specific cove or this specific part of the water that we get killed, and we're sacrificing ourselves in masses, and they have higher contracts and they have soul contracts, and there's higher consciousness there. And it was this whole theme of like, who are we to save another being? Who are we to interfere with someone's soul contract? Can we really save anyone or anything? And it was like, yeah, that Jackie had told me that a few weeks ago. And I just thought it was so like, yeah, I completely agree with that. And I feel like I kind of adopt that on a subconscious level a lot, in terms of like, you don't know what other people's contracts are. But it was so interesting just because she was able to like talk to the dolphins, and the dolphins were like, we know what we're doing. We're good. Like, you don't need to save us. You can't, maybe you can't. Can you save any other thing?
I don't know. I don't really think so. I don't think you can save.
Soul contracts exist. I just think everything has its divine timing.
I think you can co-create.
You can't,
I don't think you can save, and that's why we're being told no more saving.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's big, and it's a huge shift, because a huge like part of the old paradigm of human consciousness is this saving thing, and is this blame, and this you're responsible for this, and this blame and everything. And we're moving into you're responsible for your own aura, and that's it.
Yep.
That's it. It's you and it's your aura, and that's it. That sounds a little depressing, but
yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think there's layers to that too.
You know what I mean, guys?
You're also responsible to, I don't know, act with dignity and respect among the other sentient beings, but you're not responsible to save anyone else or save any other being. And we can't. I don't know if I don't think I do believe in saving. No. I don't think you can save. I think you can co-create. I think you can do a healing for a being or someone with their permission, where you're co-creating
with their permission.
And that's also part of this. Part of being a healer or a change maker is you're activating the healing power within the being. It's not your power that's saving them or making this happen. You're co-creating and working with the power that already exists inside themselves.
Yeah, that is a good point. You're not like creating anything from scratch or anything new. You're just working, you're just repairing their energy system, and just for them, just giving them an opportunity to like rebuild themselves, basically.
Yeah, like just this one quote. A healer is not someone you go to for a healing. A healer is someone who awakens your own consciousness in you to heal yourself. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Don't go to someone that the healing happens outside of yourself. Like, the healing should be an activation of the activation of raising the consciousness, or the healing that already exists within yourself. You can support another, you can co-create with another, but we're not here to save. And I don't think we can save. Not anymore. Not at this time.
No, not anymore. Any last stories or big takeaways from this? Share.
So I brought Osa to the ranch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know.
All 3 days of the first one?
Fuck no.
One day? Yeah, I was gonna say.
I wish I could take her for the whole day. No. How did it even come about? Well, she came up in some of my guided journeys, and I was talking to Lucia about her, and Lucia's like, well, why didn't you just bring her to the ranch? Because a lot of people did bring their dogs, because you can do that. Right. And I was just like, oh God, like, I don't think we're there yet. So, like, for anyone who doesn't know, Osa is my beautiful rescue dog. She's a Malamute, sweet, but she has had she does have some issues with reactivity to other dogs specifically. She's really good with people, but other dogs. And that's been a struggle for Bryce and I since we've got her. It's making it more difficult for us to do anything because ideally we want to share our life with her, as far as like we want to go camping with her and we want to take her on big long hikes, but it's really difficult when we come across another dog, any dog, and she just loses her mind. Like and she's very strong, and so it's difficult for us to manage that. And we'd like to move into a place where obviously we don't have to worry about that as much anymore, and for her to have a better life, because it's a better life for her too. We don't want to leave. We don't want to go on a hike and leave her at home. We want to take her.
Right. Yeah. She's so cute.
I think, she is so cute. I can't wait for you to meet her. But I think that's what happened was, in the first guided journey, she came to me. And so after, when we were debriefing and going through our experiences, I was talking about it. And Lucia's like, well, why didn't you bring her to the ranch? And I'm just like, I just like don't think we're there yet. Like, she's kind of reactive. She has these issues. Like, I just don't think, because I was staying over in my trailer too. And I'm like, because Lucia has dogs there. Other people have dogs there. Like, it just would have been a goddamn rodeo.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, well, why don't you like bring her on your last day or something? And I was like, well, I don't have a vehicle because Bryce dropped me off with the trailer so he could park it and stuff. God bless. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I was like, well, what about after class? And she's like, nope, that's my off time. And I'm like, fair enough. I respect that.
Yeah. Right.
And then so we did our debrief and we were leaving, and I was like, well, what if Bryce came early? Because I'm like, I'm also like, this is a really good opportunity for Osa to meet Lucia.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
In this container. So I'm like, what if Bryce came early to get the trailer towards the end of our day while we're still in the trainings or whatever, and then she could meet Lucia and we could do the whole thing. So while we were leaving, I asked Lucia about it, and she's like, let me feel into it. And I was like, okay, great. So she did, and in the morning we touched base, and she said, well, what if he comes around this time? And I was kind of in contact with him, texting him for him to bring her, and he did. And I was, oh my God, I was so nervous, like just like shaking. And it was a lot for Bryce too, because he did really, really well, because he had to bring her to the ranch. And also she's got other dogs there that are running around freely, that I'm just like, oh God. And so and so her house is kind of on a hill, and you go down the hill and there's like an arena where it is a spot that the horses can come in, and we'll do sessions, or we'll do our guided journeys in the arena with the horses. And she said just or Bryce can come, or he can bring Osa just like down to meet us at this time when we're down here. And I'm trying to stay in contact with him and make it work. And I'm also just like, oh God, like we're going to all be down there together. And he's like, I'm not going to really be able to help him because I can't leave. Like, he's just going to have to do it himself. And so he eventually comes and brings her. And I remember, like, as I'm sitting there and I like see them coming in, I'm like, and Lucia's like right away, she's like, Mikayla, breathe. Like, I think everyone could feel me like tense up right away, because everyone's so sensitive too. And I'm just like, oh yeah, right. And I'm just like I was like, and I'm like, that, I know that doesn't help, but I'm just like so nervous. And like,
of course, yeah.
And so one of her dogs did run up, and Osa's like, "Rah!" And like they're just like, "Rah!" And they kind of got into like a little scrap, and Lucia's like yelling at Bryce. She's like, keep walking, and he's like, okay, and he's like trying to keep walking, and this is happening in front of everyone, and she's yelling, and she's maybe not yelling, but she's speaking firmly to Bryce and to keep moving.
So what was he? Because he wanted to go and break it up? Is that what was happening?
Well, he's just trying to bring Osa down to where we are in the arena, and he's walking down this hill, so we're looking up at him, and the dog came up, and she's telling her dog to leave and go like back up to the house, but the dogs met, and they did have like I wouldn't say like a quick interaction that was a little
Oh, okay, but so she's saying, I wasn't sure. So she's saying keep walking, as in like let them not be near each other anymore. But she wasn't trying to like. Was she trying? What was she trying to do? Like break up? Well, she wasn't trying to break up the fight. She was just trying to have them.
Stopped because I think he just like
Yeah,
froze, and she's like, keep walking,
okay.
like keep walking down the hill with your dog, like keep going.
Yeah, okay.
While she's telling her dog to leave and go back to the house.
Yeah, okay.
And then and the horses are in the arena too. So Bryce brings her down and brings her into the arena, and she's like very worked up. I'm pretty worked up too. Like I'm trying not to be, but it's a lot, and we're in front of everyone. And even for Bryce to come down in front of everyone too, because he doesn't know everyone. Like I think that was a very intimidating experience for him as well.
Yeah, totally. It's not his arena. Like he knows what you do and he's aware and he's into it to an extent, but this is not his wheelhouse.
Well, and I'm not able to be on my phone at this point because I'm really not on my phone mostly during the day. Like we have breaks in between, but as we're doing, like I don't even have my phone on me. Like it's in my backpack, set away because we're in the middle of doing a guided journey or doing a debrief, and like I don't have my phone on me. So I'm like, he's gonna have to figure it himself to park and bring her down and do this all on his own.
Oh, yeah, okay. And so, yeah, it wasn't like you were with him.
No, I wasn't with him. He had to come down and meet us, including me. So he did really, really good for that too, because I think even for him, it was a little intimidating walking into everybody. He's like, I didn't want to like interrupt you guys. And I'm like, yeah, but she knew you were coming. But so, yeah, she comes down and she's like, also, she's helping us. She first of all was talking about equipment. So like, because right now we just have a leash or like a collar on her, so she recommended using a different type of like halty thing that goes over her nose, so we're working on that right now. And then she also just put her hand on her and was like teaching us how to like on her shoulder blades to get her to lay down. And she right away, she's like, this is not an aggressive dog. She's like, she's a submissive dog, because that's how she gets, like where she puts her tummy up, she's just like, it's like fear, aggression. And then she was like feeling into her, and so she went into not a past life, but Osa's life before she came to us. And she said Osa wants to say sorry to her previous owner. She's sorry that she left and she didn't want to leave.
Oh, did you know that she like, so she like she escaped basically, and that's why she was a rescue, because she like fled? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think up north on the reserve or wherever she came from, I think the way people have their dogs is very different from down here. I haven't been up there, so I don't know, but I think it's very normal for dogs to just run around all over the place. And it's interesting because I have been having kind of my feelings about, it's funny that we're talking about this, before we were talking about rescuing and saving. It's the same words, it's the same languages. Before this, I had been having feelings about, I don't know how I feel about taking dogs from up north and bringing them down here to be rehomed, because how do you know they don't want to be up there? Yeah. And I've been struggling with that with Osa too, because I'm like, since we've had her, she's been having to learn how to live with us and live with us in this lifestyle, because before she was running around all the time. And I think that's part of her like impulse control. But I'm like, how do I know she didn't like her life like that? Like she had a lot of freedom and she was always outside and she could run and do whatever. And I mean, I wasn't there because she was also found in the bush pregnant when she was rescued. So like, that's probably not an ideal situation for her. But the rest of the time, like, how do I know that she's not perfectly happy like that? Like, I don't know. I don't know either way. But she was taken and brought down here. So what she wanted to say is she was sorry to her previous owner. And we always never knew if she had an owner, and what Lucia said was, Osa was sorry that she left and she didn't want to leave. And of course, I just like burst into tears. So it was a big clearing and releasing for me. I was helping release that for Osa. And she was in a situation, in kind of like a domestic abuse situation between the couple, or I don't know if it was the couple or if there was kids, but there was domestic abuse going on. And Osa would go and comfort the person who was being abused.
Wow. Oh, wow. And you didn't know any of this.
No, I mean, it resonated though very deeply, and I felt it because I have tuned in before where I did feel something like that. So to have like the confirmation, but it wasn't to that point where I would have known that she wanted to say sorry to her previous guardian. To me, but it was interesting because one time when we first got her, I had tuned in to just seeing like, it was her as a puppy, and the vision was just this man holding a baseball bat. So that was very like validating too, but yeah, it was wild. And that was a release. Lucia worked with, we cleared that for her. But it was big. Like, I just like burst into tears because I was just like, wow. Like, it was just a really powerful, profound moment. Yeah. And then she just got us to, she was like worked up and moving around and like barking at the horses too. And it was so interesting because we were kind of standing over by the gate, and she kept getting us to like ask her to lay in a sit, and just like reiterating and showing her that she doesn't have to be the protector. Cause I think that would happen too at this previous home. She felt like she had to be the protector. She would get in the middle of it. And this was so interesting too, because Bryce and I had such a big aha moment, because when we got her, like Bryce like leaned down to give me a kiss and she barked at him. And she's gotten better at that. But like even now, because like Bryce and I are very playful, and sometimes we'll kind of like play fight, or we'll just be like, and she, even now she's the same. Like she right away gets right in the middle of it. Like she's just like, no. And she starts barking at us. She's like, stop it. Like absolutely not, enough.
Protector energy. Yeah.
Because she feels like she felt like she had to protect me in that moment. Because the first time that Bryce gave me a kiss, like I was on the couch and he like leaned over me. So and she won't do that now if he were to kiss me. But even then, just him leaning over me, she's like, no, like get away from her. Like don't touch her.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the release was for, it was for Osa though too,
It was
right?
for Osa.
It was for Osa. Yeah. Was there anything else that came up?
Well, yeah. And so then she taught us to just ask her to sit, and we'd stand up, and like, she has to realize that we're going to keep her safe and that we're going to protect her. So that's a practice. But it was so interesting because while this is all going on, and then Lucia keeps talking to everyone, and she's like, just keep putting her in a sit, just keep her there. And Osa's like so worked up too. She's like, like she's so worked up. But the horses they wanted to come out of the gate, which is where we were right by. So they start coming towards Osa to go out of the gate. And of course, Osa's like gets up and she's just barking at them like crazy because they're these big, like I don't even know if she's seen a horse.
Yeah, they're huge.
Before.
Yeah,
they're huge. And she's just like afraid of everything and not trusting.
Yeah.
So we put her in a sit. And then Lucia's like, they want to come through the gate. So can someone just like open up the gate, which is like right beside Bryce was standing. And me, and it was just so interesting watching like them walking through the gate, because it's like they almost did it in purpose in front of Osa, because one went around a cache, the big brown guy, and he stopped and he looked right at her, but like right at her, and Osa was barking and going crazy, and he just stood there. He stopped. Like most horses would be like probably not enjoy it, and he just stopped and he looked at her, and it was almost like this moment of like, you're okay, and like just take a second to just like look at me.
Man, those horses are some freaking wise horses she got at that ranch. I mean, they're all pretty wise horses, but those horses are just super cosmic.
But that was even a moment like Bryce noticed that, and he was just like, whoa.
Yeah, even Bryce was like, what the fuck's that?
He was like, that was crazy. So that was a really powerful for Osa. And
yeah, that's great. I'm so glad that you guys got to do that.
And yeah, me too. And I'm hoping to take her there for another private session / kind of training session at some point with Lucia. Like, I think that would be really, really great for us. And, I'm doing a lot of learning because I know that Osa and I are supposed to figure these things out together. And I believe that supporting
Yeah.
Osa to be calmer and living a happier life is going to come from an energetic state. And I mean, I know everything is energetic, but I
Yes.
believe she's with me for us to do this learning together. So just unpacking that more and more.
It's such a, it's definitely a lesson.
Yeah.
You know, it's a trial, it's a task, because especially with pets, and it's so easy for the frustration and the anger and the trigger to take over. So it is a, you know, it's a journey. It's to for you to master her energy, or for you to master getting her into some regulated state, or for you guys all to have a family flow together. For you to master that from an energetic perspective is a task. It's a task. And obviously it's not easy, and it hasn't been easy for you. And but yeah, it's awesome that you're working on it, and that it's good. I can't wait to meet Osa in a few weeks.
Yeah, here's Newt.
Well, Newt's made many he's so cute. Newt's made many appearances on the podcast. Hey, Newt.
Goodbye.
Wow. All right. Awesome episodes.
Yes.
This was great. These are great.
And
any other final words that you want to mention?
Nope.
Or I mean, we're going to continue talking about this and all that you've learned.
Yes, we will be.
You can always add it in another episode, but okay, yeah. So thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. If you're here, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're here, tell a friend, tell a family member, tell someone that you think might find this interesting, and share it with them. And also leave us a rating wherever you're listening. Leave us a review if you like us. You know, do all those things. Help support us, because we're growing, and we appreciate your presence if you gotten to this point. So yeah, follow me on Instagram at interdimensional.astrophysics, and follow the podcast at the Orphic Podcast.
Yeah, and follow me at Mariposa Moonchild on Instagram. And I guess if I were to say one last thing, I just would like to thank Lucia for providing this container, this energy, thanking all the other participants for holding space, being that energy, thanking the land, thanking the horses, thanking all the sentient beings that were there to support us. And just giving gratitude and thanks for that really, really powerful container and everyone that was there to support energetically.
Yeah, definitely. Much gratitude, because wow, the effect that just it's gonna have on everyone, everything, and it's just so big. I've been really extending a lot of gratitude to land lately, and to just Gaia and stuff like that. Yes, thank you to Lucia for providing the experience, and okay. Well, thank you. Speaking of thanks, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we will see you all next time. Bye.
Thank you.